Thank you. I really appreciate you turning over the mic to me. I generally speaking teach on Wednesday nights. That was my dog's muzzle. You'll hear a little more about him later. So I'm not able to join you. The last time I joined you, I wrote about smoking weed and the issues that presents for a mother of kids in their teens. That was a long time ago. So now that I hear you have 2 different nights for reading, or is it all on Wednesday? Might all be on Wednesday.
They'll be on the second Wednesday and the fourth Wednesday, 2-4.
I'm going to have to let my group do a little bit of work on their own. They're doing work tonight. I normally lead a creative group. So my bio tells you about everything, personality, character. All right, I'm leaving this room. Tone, interest, attitude, everything, my beliefs, and kind of the speed at which I work. I am sorry to be walking, but we'll just keep going. There's so many reasons why I wanted to talk tonight, but mostly it was because I came across a process that I found really interesting. And I think that sometimes writing is a really hard job, and that let's just say there's so many ways to start a piece of writing, so many ways to write. And sometimes I just think we get incredibly blocked. I can just have too many ideas. Okay, there we go. We're settled now. And those too many ideas interfere with the process of actually starting to write. So when I came across this at the beginning of COVID, I thought, wow, this is interesting. Let's see if it works. So the process was not to just write. I do write morning pages, which I'll explain later. Just that Natalie Goldberg, Julia Cameron, just get it all out. And then I try to work on a couple of different things. I work usually on an essay or 2. So right now I'm writing one on being Jewish, and I'm working on this Journal of Solitude. So if one gets stale, the other is usually available to be messed with. I tend to destroy my own writing if I don't have 2, if I can't put one to bed and pull the other out. If I only have one, I will kill that writing, because I am, I started an MFA program. I was only in it 1 semester before I realized it would kill my writing. But the person that I was working with was a journalist, and I write creative nonfiction and essays, and those are 2 totally different tones. And basically, he cut down every sentence I wrote to about 1 or 2 words. And so I lost all of the texture, all of the flavor, but I also lost myself, and I lost the confidence in my writing, which circles back to how do we write in such a way that is helpful, uplifting, supportive. There's too many times where I have been in a place of just despair over my writing. Just, oh my God, I can't write. It's awful. Put that sucker aside and, go on to doing something else. And all of a sudden I'll go back to that other piece and I'll like, well, it's not all shit. There's actually these 2 good pieces, or it's not all shit. Actually, it's pretty decent, or, some combination of the 2. And over the last couple of years, I've been reading a lot about flow state, and flow state is something that can be described as the samadhi state in yoga, or the Gevura state in traditional Judaism, where you are connected so deeply with the essence of your belief that you are you're fueling yourself. In yoga terms, you're erasing negative karma, or you're neutralizing it, not erasing it. You're neutralizing negative karma. And I think in Judaism, you're clearing your head of the things that will cause you to go astray. So Judaism is very concerned with actions, and yoga is concerned with the mind. You can think pretty much whatever you want in Judaism. If you do not do it, you're in pretty good shape. But in yoga, we say whatever the head and the ego are doing, that's where our actions come out of. So I have, over a lifetime, grew up in an Orthodox community in a traditional home, went to seminary at 19 in Israel, basically came home with many questions, and by 23 had been married and divorced to an Orthodox man, and had been and started pursuing Buddhism, but that wasn't quite right. And at 27, 28, I had a back injury, and I started doing yoga. So the physical postures of yoga, just that one slice. And then over the years, I started studying yoga philosophy, the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, with a woman that I met in California, who is the student of Mr. Desikachar, who just recently died. And I was very fortunate to be able to study with a teacher who came from a lineage. And she had spent many years in and out of India studying with her teacher. And all that was required of me was a passable knowledge of Sanskrit. And I already have a passable knowledge of biblical Hebrew. So I'm like, oh, one dead language, why not two? And I was on this journey, and the pieces just, they keep intertwining. So I think that's all I'm going to tell you. And I'm going to start writing. I'll start reading from what I've written, and then you can tell me if you have any questions or concerns. I'm going to look at my watch. Okay, do I have 10 more minutes? That's what it's feeling like to stay on time for you.
Well, I wasn't keeping track, but I would say you have at least 10 minutes, if not 15.
Okay, I want to stay within your parameters. Okay, watch this. Set alarm for 12 minutes. Okay, so now we have a timekeeper.
Alarm is set for 7:29 p.m.
She likes to talk. My writing and my life can be expressed in a single sentence. I want to live an examined life, and from this basic exercise, act in accordance. I have been granted a life of comfort, a body sturdy enough for writing, a mind disciplined enough, and a heart open enough to pursue the truth. In August, days before my 60th birthday, while dusting my bookshelves, I stopped at May Sarton's A Journal of a Solitude. I opened it and read the inscription an old friend had written. My sister says I'm getting exotic, better than weird. Hope you enjoy. Love, Jane. It was a Christmas gift in 1990. I remember reading the book for the first time in the early 80s, and again when Jane gave it to me in the 90s. I couldn't quite get my mind fully around it, but I felt that something important was being said and that it was being directed to me. Not that I think she was just directing it at me, but it was like, I felt this was a message for me. I found the copy and was just sort of, kind of looking at it as I'm dusting through the shelves. And I thought, what can I learn from May Sarton, who's a novelist, a memoirist, a poet, and a nonfiction writer, who had been so important to me at an earlier time that I'd saved her books for 30 years, when a lot of other books had been thrown away. I had a vague memory that it turned out to be wrong, that Sarton wrote what I'll call Solitude during her 60th year. But it turns out that she wrote it when she was 58 and published it in 1973 when I was 12. I got the idea, and that's also the year of Roe v. Wade. I got the idea that I would write a journal of a year just standing there looking out the window. And I thought, why not write a journal the year that I turned 60? It's the third year of COVID. It's the years of Trump. It's the year after the insurrection. It's the year that I both look forward to and fear. Can things possibly get worse? Possibly yes, but just maybe things can be turned around. And it's for this reason that I started this journal. I dedicate this journal to the large circle of women around me. I have never really thanked them. They came when I needed them, when I was a young kid, when I was a teenager, when I was a young adult, when I was a new writer, when I hit middle age and had young kids. I was 37 and 41. What was I thinking? When my kids started leaving home, and now as I dig into the psycho-spiritual aspects of my life, when I have more space, when I have more time. The journal is written in response to Sarton's journal, but you will see not exactly. I'm using her journal structure, which I don't think is her exact journal, but ideas refined from her journal. Who writes despairly in a journal? Not me. In Julia Cameron's seminal work, The Artist's Way, she writes about the importance of morning pages. Messy, messy writing, written each morning before starting the day. Uncensored writing that helps to clear the blockages. She calls for 3 pages each morning written in longhand. I write what my friend Julie has named daily pages. My schedule is not about getting up early in the morning. It is about going to bed late at night to have time to write in deep quiet. I basically have set up my yoga teaching in the morning at 9 and 10 o'clock to make sure that I do get up, but it's barely that I'm up. So I write these unruly, woolly pages, rants, politics, and delights in 15 minutes with a timer. I write in the tradition of Natalie Goldberg, writing down the bones. I write in the tradition of my writing teacher, Priscilla Long, author of Minding the Muse and the Writer's Portable Mentor, a guide to art, craft, and writing life. Pages very quickly, too quickly. I have learned to write with abbreviation to keep up with the flood of thoughts. I rarely end up writing, I do not know what to write, as Cameron and Goldberg recommend if you do not know what to write. If the hand fails and falls behind my mind, I end up making lists and sometimes doodles. Single words that hold the meaning of sentences that I can go back to and fill in later. I have an ongoing struggle, like most people, between my head and my heart, my ego and my truth. For years, my writing was attached to my ego. What will this sound like? What will people think? Will they like it? Will they read it? Will they compliment me and not mean it? On September 15th, so this is the first actual section, so moving from the intro to the first section. On September 15th, Sarton writes from her rural house in New Hampshire. I am here alone for the first time in weeks to take up my real life again at last. That's what is strange. The friends, even passionate love, are not my real life unless there is time alone which to explore and to discover what is happening or has happened. I taste it fully only when I am alone here in the house and I resume old conversations. When I asked to receive a mantra from a Hindu guru, Amritananda Mai, I was given the Sanskrit mantra of Satyam, truth. At the same time, I decided to also take the Hebrew word emet, which means truth, as a second mantra. Emmett reminds me of Emmett Till from Chicago, who died in Money, Mississippi at age 14 while visiting family. Accused of being disrespectful to a white woman, he was the victim of vicious hatred. The woman's husband and his half-brother beat, mutilated, and shot Till and threw his body into the Tallahatchie River. How is it that I was an adult before I had heard about Emmett Till? Was there too much noise? Was the truth hidden? Was there a great lie that smothered the truth? If I were an adult in the 60s instead of the late 70s when I turned 18, would I have known about Emmett Till? I occasionally hear people say, I marched in Selma. Well, I didn't march in Selma. I was too young, too removed, and possibly too afraid. I am standing up now to be counted, but to hear the truth, I find that I need deep quiet. Quiet is a luxury. Space is a luxury. Time to think is a luxury. I have run out of excuses. I listen to solitude on my daily walks with my dog, Junie, who is a pain in the ass, a relentless golden retriever who thinks everything should always be fun. Every squirrel, bird, scrap of food calls him. He is hopeless at controlling himself. I watch him and am reminded of myself. Each day, I find one thought from the section I am reading in solitude, and as I walk, I try to let it expand. I take notes on my hands, I make voice memos, I talk to myself. At all costs, I do not catch the glance of a passerby. I am in my space, I am thinking, I am going towards my truth. So the explanation, the intro, and then the first section of it, and the process. So thank you, and
But
just thank you.
I'm glad to be back with you. Recently, I have begun. I was accepted to a poetry submission program, the Writers Relief. It's like you pay to have them submit stuff for you, so it's a little bit of an honor. But they got back to me and said they really like. They don't usually give an editorial comment, but they really like two of my poems and pieces, and they were very complimentary. And so I have bracketed my presentation tonight with the first one and the last one. Now, the first one, I agree with them. I think it's a nice piece. I really worked on it. It just came out well. I edited copious times. The last piece is just a throwaway, and for some reason it got people like it, so I kept it. This one was written in a group that I had over the pandemic, and there's some members of that group here, Bonnie and Donna and Erika, and that was one of the things that helped keep me sane during that whole time. Beautiful people, great writers, and I learned a lot from them. So this is called Unraveling. Some years before the divorce, my wife asked me to try on the sleeve of a sweater she was knitting. She shimmied the arm up and turned it round, spotting some error in the stitch, as she would do. In a wink, pulled it off and quickly began to unravel the former sleeve until it lay on the floor like a fabric tongue. As always, I was appalled at the speed and violence of this rending. I would beg her, please, can't you do something? And eager to get it over with, apparently without anger or remorse, she finished the unraveling so she could begin anew. Now that I'm submitting things in earnest versus just reading, here are some of the things that pop up that were never on my radar before. So I don't know about you, but I read a lot of good poems that are about nostalgia. This is called Nostalgia Poems. I read somewhere on the poetry submissions page of some poetry journal that they were not interested in poems of nostalgia. And so for the next 35 days, all I could write were poems of nostalgia. I came to believe I could write an entire collection of poems of nostalgia. Better, I could launch and publish a poetry journal entitled Nostalgia to hoover up all those poor nostalgia poems cast aside by this erudite journal devoid of nostalgia. I could then comb through their erudite editions and try to spot closet nostalgia, and then write letters to the editor how I was extremely disappointed in how they were letting that old nostalgia crap creep into their erudite domain, and how if I wanted nostalgia, I could go to 100 other journals, like Nostalgia, for example. Have you heard of it? Or read famous poets and find that crap. This is definitely a nostalgia poem, and I like it. It's called Ice Cream Commandos. In that everlasting 1954, we ride our bikes in small packs of feral, sweaty 9-year-olds over grass browning at the edges, pedaling through summer heat over dirt clods turned up to the sun. We pass by huge tomatoes fattening so quickly on the vine it seems we can hear their redness. With boysenberry stains on our hands and lips, we pedal around the block that dips into the next town, that far-off frontier, past the magical line where the pavements change and separate one territory from the other. We jump back and forth from town to town, swearing allegiance to our own and taunting the other. We could not imagine ever living over there as we furiously pedal a loop through alien territory, stealthy like commandos. In our dreams, Russian bombers might darken the horizon as we grab our Tommy guns, so might there also be pirates or dragons or comic book villains for that matter. We fly on our bikes, peel off like saber jets. Our mouths whoosh jet sounds and spit machine gun noises from our berry-stained lips, whose red we pretend to be the dripping blood of warriors. Round and round we ride in a tightening circle, like the tigers in the book who swirl so fast they turn into butter. And then we collapse in a sweaty heap, picking grass and waiting for the good humor ice cream man, whose chimes we could hear from way over the next street. Coming closer, pausing, coming closer, several blocks down, then making his excruciating journey slowly down our street until he stops in front of our pack, where we have our dimes tucked into the coin pockets of our jeans. Rolling his eyes, he will tell us, "Stand back, kids, one at a time," as he slides the side window and cracks open the top of his freezer to dole out the treasures within. Back by our bikes, under the oak tree, we will ply open the wrappers and gently bite the chocolate cover to reach the frozen vanilla cream that will swirl in our mouths forever. Well, we're back in the throes of the pandemic. I wrote this back in 2020, and all this stuff we wrote, some of it comes rushing back, like the variants. This is Bitter Bowl. I gotta tell you, we really did not like her. She worked us over on the phone, was curt, officious, peeled off nary a shred of goodwill or warmth, revealed nothing. Yet since our customers keep the lights on, we tiptoed around her like some unexploded bomb in an orchard. Some days she would be so snotty, like, what is her problem? We would pose catty explanations to blow off steam and wish her the worst. But last week the worst came. She was diagnosed with COVID on a Tuesday and died before seeing the next. Belatedly, we find out she was the mother of 3, 13, 11, 10, breadwinner, beloved by coworkers. Of course, their rock star, they add. And we are stunned, speechless, staring down at our hands, holding our bitter bowl. Ode to the Virus, Defiance. I have seen your face in the photos plastered on every bulletin board, The uniform protrusions all over your visage like so many identical solar flares, a deadly acne, yet oddly attractive. Your beauty is as deceptive as the fraudulent blue of the president's eyes, the orange of the old man's hair. Your image is seductive as a swastika, symmetrical, strong, evil. You have brought us to our knees, temporarily, brutally, even pitting us one against the other. Yet you need us. And so you love us like a cannibal, desperate in that way. I can go hide, safe from you in the forest for a month, but you cannot. As a hungry hunter crawls inside the warm carcass of the dead moose to survive a freeze, you must crawl inside our body to survive. The two cannot coexist here. One must die. You need us as much as we need air. We need not you. We need you dead. You are ancient and brainless. We are modern, intelligent, the latest model, relentless. We have a future. You do not. Fortunately, that's not completely true. So you wanted harmonica, you got harmonica. This is a Mask Song 2020. Lightening up a little bit on the COVID stuff. The best part of wearing a mask is taking the fucking thing off. But it don't work if you don't wear it. It don't work if you don't pull it up. Cover your mouth, cover your nose, 'cause it don't work if you don't. Yes, I know you don't like it. You don't like it, and neither do I. But if we don't wear them, then the Rona gets hanky, and people will die. It don't work if you don't wear it. It don't work if you don't pull it up. 'Cause if you get the Rona, you don't want to share it. But it don't work if you don't wear it. It don't work if you don't wear it. So put the damn thing on. Yeah. Another poem. Could be nostalgia poem, not sure. This one has a visual aid, goes with it. It's wood. You'll understand this better after I read the poem. I was in this group that I told you about, and all the men departed, and it was just myself and a number of great women, and I was the resident Y chromosome of that group. So that somehow stuck with me, and I wrote this, Decoding the Y chromosome. If you place a few toy trucks with two small boys, they will likely weave these into a screenplay that will occupy the better part of an afternoon of war. There will be drama and conquest and chase, but often too, just when you think all hope of humanity is lost in the heat of battle, generosity will appear. If a parent, with the best of intent, withholds even toy guns from said boys, from 2x4s and dowel and glue, they will fashion Bren guns and M16s. And if you introduce dolls, they will shoot them. I suspect that when geneticists get to the very deep of that male chromosome one day, they shall find minuscule devices, little trucks and trains, and tracks that spiral up the sugar phosphate backbone of the double helix. Little molar locomotives will be winding their way along those tracks, and little molecular men holding molecular carbines will be shooting electrons across the divide. Perhaps even imagining little molecular girls over on the X who would be looking on, but pretending not to. Hopefully the only gun I will ever own. I decided to be angry all day. Today I woke up and decided to be angry all day. Nothing personal or pathological, mind you, but like my older brother, I would marshal my anger into a platoon of Special Forces neurons who would then ride out on a crest of fear and power and tear apart nests of resistance, and I would rescue my future. I would seize gremlins of ennui with cunning, dismantle stubborn hedgerows of procrastination with a whack, push thickets of doubt and indecision into the ditch, take all the riffraff out to the dumpster and seize the day. Seize the fucking day. So I went to the cemetery to pick up my brother, an expert in such manners of focused anger, and together we strode toward battle, pounding each other's shoulders, checking our armor from tip to hilt. Oh, at last we were together one more time, ready for the good fight. That curious look sizzled again in his blue eyes. My God, he was always a fearsome sight at such a time, striding toward the din, strings of bagpipes o'er the hill, the blonde hairs on his muscular young arms waving in the wind, timeless. He squatted down, fingered the soil, no doubt to check for firmness. And as he did, his hand wandered over to a wilting daisy, rolling its petals gently between thumb and forefinger, and his eyes lifted in a squint. He gazed out over the field of daisies and slowly exhaled, as he would. And I leaned in to absorb the mystery. And as our hearts filled with gratitude, lost in this field of surprises, our anger dissolved, and we were doomed. Song of my skin. I think I'm supposed to despise my wrinkled skin, with the blotches and liver spots that would make my 20-something self cringe. I should wish that the spidery red and purple veins that populate my ankles were gone and returned to that creamy, unblemished mocha of those middle school summers. But I run my grateful fingers over this plain of wrinkles, feel a pure gush of love as unexplainable as the joy I recall from the sound of a burble of water sliding over a stone in a mountain stream, the sight of swaying and the moss grass in the current as it runs past stones of regret. Light twinkles off the surface, and for a moment I am breathless. For at the end of my wrist, I see my great-grandfather's hand, lost in time, unknown to us all. I reach back for him, tears streaming across the moss. Tell me, tell me. My timer seems to be wanting to turn itself off. So for quite a while, I was reading at Easy Speak, and we would come. Of course, it was live. It was over in Wedgwood, and we do it now by Zoom. But it kind of got to be a thing where I know it was sort of the ethos there for a while. Certainly, that's what I picked up, was you want to bring something new in. So I would try to write something new, and a lot of times it would get down to the wire and be, oh shit, it's Monday night, and I gotta write something. And so I just would start writing, and I'd write some just blabbering stuff, and then I'd get in there, and I didn't. So one time I just started reading it, and I had played harmonica with the band a little bit, so I just started doing harmonica with it, and then it's like, here's this really crappy poem, and with harmonica, and people loved it. What? So that was kind of a interesting awakening. And so I wrote this piece called Suckers for Our Harmonica. People are just like a harmonica. There's something about it. So this is called Suckers for Our Harmonica. This is not a poem. Witness this harmonica. This is not a song. Witness these spoken words. This is not a legal proceeding, despite the witnesses. Suffer me, please me, with your Snickers. With your Snickers. With your Milky Way. With your Hubble and your Kepler. These words are a foil for my harmonica. What is a lesson? What is a lesson? Shitty poetry, weak harmonica. Outstanding combination. What is a lesson? Suffer me, please me, with your Snickers, with your Milky Way. Everybody loves a harmonica. Everybody sucker for a harmonica. Everybody suckers for a harmonica. Sucker for harmonica. Suckers. I never do that the same way twice. Therefore, it's not a song. But it's a lot of fun to do. It's really, I'm dying to get back and do it in person because it's fun to play with the audience. Anyway, I can't see you guys. I don't know what you're doing. So anyway, I'll just finish with two short pieces. One is a memo to my offspring called Memo to Offspring. You may wish that your parents were smarter than they are, or richer, wiser, kinder, or cooler, or more forgiving, or less forgiving, but they are not. And I said that there was one piece that was just kind of a throwaway. Sorry about the paper. Is it making noise? It's called Lucky Ending. Something spandex. Lazily today, while doing laundry, for some reason, I read the label on a spandex garment. What is spandex anyway? All I know is spandex will date this poem, which is fine because this poem would be quite lucky to merely find its way into a solitary collection on a dusty shelf of a great granddaughter who I will never meet. It might as well be dated. If it were extremely lucky, this poem would be published in the New Yorker and would wind up on 100 refrigerator doors for a month in kitchens across the nation. That would be huge success. But this poem does not pack the gear for that. It has no chance of going further. It will not see print, will not wind up in some Northwest anthology, will not even gracefully come to an end. Thank you.
This poem was inspired by a birthday. It seemed to, and by events surrounding that birthday, and it's called Love Beams from Every Pore. And it's nostalgic about anger, I guess. The gender wars finally ended. Years of struggle, skirmishes, all-out battles, dug in trenches. Finally, he sued for peace. She readily agreed. A formal treaty signed with fanfare, songs of trumpets, drums rolling, crowds roaring. In celebration, strangers danced on rooftops. For this was no temporary truce, guarded by wary sentries as in the past, no uneasy demilitarized zone alert to any and all transgressions. It was true peace, for they finally agreed that evolution had left them as good as they could be. So the crusades to improve each other finally done. She emerged, shining bright, all shimmering golden in the morning light, for all was good when all was right. Victory without demanding defeat, love beaming from every pore. She sang a song as light as fireflies. The world replied in murmur, come sit among the flowers, come drink the sweet nectar wine, be blessed in gardens sublime.
Okay, thanks a lot. Yeah, I'm going to read a couple Christmas poems for you. I kind of read them this year. This first one, I kind of wrote one last year called A New Christmas because of the COVID. And this is about this year's Christmas. So it's called Another New Christmas. Santa says, it's another new year, a happier atmosphere. Time for the reindeer to reappear without fear. Stockings all hung up, kids under the covers, all snugged up, with dreams still alive in these times. Everything has changed. The COVID Grinch is here to stay. We just gotta keep it at bay. Must out brave, but the Scrooge is out there causing waves. Santa puts on his new Nike boots with ice grips so he won't throw out his hip. Pick up the latest naughty or nice list. He's ready for the task. Grabs a sanitizer and boxes of gloves and masks. It's time to saddle up. Elves secure the bag so there won't be any snags, just in case Santa's got roadside assistance. The reindeer got the QR codes. They finish up their Red Bull and got all masked up. It's time to hit the road. Santa puts his earbuds in that's plugged into his iPod. Without a fuss, he clicks on the playlist to Enter the Sandman by Metallica. Puppies cuddle up on his lap, hoping he's not going to have a mishap. Can't have ponies in the sleigh because of the weight restriction, just in case he gets stopped at the weight scales. The Army will do a hot drop for him with the Hercules planes. For those Scrooges that are not in the right footstep, Santa's not going to leave you presents or a piece of coal on the doorstep because the porch pirates are always on the lookout. With the COVID Grinch regulations in the toss, don't leave cookies or milk out for the cause. Also, a note from Santa, Mrs. Claus. Santa's on a diet, maybe some yogurt or carrots. Although Santa wish he was on a beer diet, he'll stop in for his free coffee at Tim Hortons on this night. There's always one in sight. This year, families far as much be more in touch. Gather around the Christmas tree with laughter and hugs and drink from their rum eggnog mugs. Somewhat a traditional Christmas. Still some will be on virtually online. That's just fine. Gather around the screen to enjoy the scenes. It's sad when it's a wrap. Santa and Mrs. Claus will just sit down and wrap with a nightcap in the hot tub, then cuddle up for a long nap. So have a very merry homecoming or virtual Christmas to one and all. This is my next one, kind of falls into this one here. These are some of the stories that nobody really sees at Christmas time. It's called Just Another Christmas Eve. Back at the stable, after a long night tussle, the reindeer sit down with a beer. A sincere atmosphere with cheers and cheers, reflecting about the night, the behind the scenes that nobody sees, the slips. the trees that were clipped, near misses with the satellite dishes. Almost got hit by a meteorite, and that was a sight. GPS on the blink, sending us to a hockey rink. Santa getting stuck in the chimney, had to call 911 to get him out. Dogs chasing him out the front door before his pants got tore. Stuck in snowdrifts. Lost gifts left in the shop. Had to get perolator to send it out in a hot shop. Having a shot of Bailey's when Santa's not looking, then watching Rudolph's nose glowing brighter. Sneaking away to hide on Santa. When he shimmies out the chimney, the look on his face was worth it all. But the words he shouted out wasn't very Christmas at all. People hearing strange noise in the night and call the cops. Santa had to take a breathalyzer and try to prove who he was, so he didn't have to stay a night in the slammer. All in a night's work. One of the perks. All this could be make a TV blooper reel. It would be a steal. Just another Christmas Eve, time to turn in with a grin. Hit the straw with memories in awe.
How to get the
Thank
color
you.
better.
Thank you, guys.
I have a poem here that's in a manuscript that was just recently accepted by Finishing Line Press. So I'm really happy to say that it's forthcoming, as they say. This manuscript is called Letting Gravity Speak, and it's poems that are dedicated to my deceased husband. They were written about him and his illness, his decline, and the years, all the good fun years we had together, as well as the latter years that were difficult. This poem is called Did You Know That We Embraced? Did you know that we embraced after they sunk your casket in the ground with ropes, the pale pine box wide by the shoulders, tapered at the ends, and above your face, the Magen David. Earth rained on us, its weight pressing my arms against your new shape, my nose to the wood's fragrance. Was it a dream? How long since you'd worn your old blue raincoat on that last car ride beside me? Did we realize there'd be no further need for raincoats? I thought of how we tangled in the green leaves and vines of my kitchen and spun among the indigo chrysanthemums of my duvet, rolled on the rock ridge crest by Kanapali's stream and in the sunlight of the skin-dipped sea, stung swollen. How we embraced in river spray on Skycomish boulders, glimpsed by kayakers skirting the bend in the river's flash. What were they thinking? We made love in the rush of rusty smokestacks, racing past the window of a turned down Amtrak sleeper made up by a savvy porter for the quarter-hour run between New York and Newark. And in your office windows, beam of dust motes rising from that shabby tilt-back lounger. And what's more, your navy raincoat on the floor. Thank you. I could read you another one if you want. I've got a whole manuscript of them here, but I don't know how many poems an individual reader can
Well,
read.
we have 5 more after you. I think you could read one, another one.
Okay, I'll do another one, not too long. It's called Relics and Cryptic Things. My crypt is filled with relics. No gilt statues here or splendid spoils. No gut-filled jars with invocations or embalming oils to keep the dead alive for timeless circuits on porphyry thrones. No birds or crocodiles on walls engraved with praise and thanks. No frozen heads in cryogenic tanks. Just objects beaten out of words and forged from bowel and bone. Confessions scorched on onion skin. Some enigmatic silver tones to scan and digitize like hieroglyphs pending their Champollion. Not much to hoard. A challah cover wanting beads. A yahrzeit candle to recall. A math society award. An old green tennis ball.
Thank you, Leopoldo.
Thank you, Erika.
So I read one of my poems to my 11-year-old granddaughter, Vivian. And she says to me, she said, but Tata is grandfather in Tamil, but Tata, it doesn't rhyme, she says. So just for her, I wrote this poem. And what it's called, What Rhymes with Rhyme. Okay. Oh, my darling one, once upon a time, the first bell sounded its first chime. A rhyme, a rhyme, a rhyme, a rhyme. A clay pot was the ancient bell prime. It sounds perhaps a trifle too rhyme. It was, after all, just baked grime. Metal wrought bells with notes sublime, notes awaken devotees at prime, notes sad, glad, inviting, all in rhyme. Metal bells are now the paradigm. All right. So I got all of that was one. And here's another one I wrote a few years ago. And this is, I think, pretty apt because it's called Christmas Eve. Okay. So here, Christmas Eve. Silent night, empty night, stars dimmed by urban haze. The Magi rot in their homes, no star shines over Bethlehem. No Christ birth, only hate is born in Bethlehem. Hush, wait and listen. A harp sounds, Amal's child voice, tremulous, steadying, melodious, serenely hopeful, summons the Magi forth. It's time once more to recall the beautiful allegory. The Christ is born yet again, the child by woman born, in thews, sinews, mind, blood, heart, every hair's breadth a man. Compassionate, kind, caring, gentle, crucified. Last words echoing the soul of love. Should Christ be born nevermore, then doleful bells ring the death knell of humankind, the Magi wrought at home.
Thank you. Just one quick poem called Evolution. Your dog will eat anything she gets in her mouth, even that tennis ball you're too tired to toss, like a baby all lips and hollow. A cat will try to swallow the needle at the end of the thread he's been working. You wouldn't do that. You only put in your mouth things good for body, mostly. Your Ruby and Rex gobble down food like death would ensue absent ingestion at too fast a pace to pay any attention. How did we get here, gift of pleasure? From fill my tummy and I smell danger to treasure buds in delight, that particular lemony hollandaise slither, intoxication of inhaled saffron, walnuts crunch, gin's bite.
Thanks, Leopoldo.
Thank you.
All right. This one's called I Have a Memory. I have a memory of a reflection. I stood in front of a circular mirror, and the light turned around and waved with my hand before indicating I should turn around to remind myself of something. I tried to look over the shoulder of the me in the mirror, but it was smudged. So I reached and rotated it with 4 hands. I hoped turning my reflection on its head might allow a clearer view, but the image of me stayed as I did. I even leaned closer, but the hot steam of our breath fogged the glass and smelled of garlic and obscurity. Still, it wanted me to turn. I grew frustrated and touched it 3 times with each fist, and it shattered and cut my knuckles and splattered. With my blood, 1,000 reflections motioned with my hand to turn around.
Inspiration. This one is called Winter Solstice, so we're getting all the seasonal poems. Winter Solstice. He spoke of watching the hummingbird bring soft fuzz and leaves high in the sequoia in the front yard. He watched it turn around and form it with its vibrating tail feathers and tiny humming bottom, circling like a dog before settling in, readying it for its mate. He told of the days that came and went with no more activity, the nest unfinished. He wondered if it had died in the outbreak of mold and bacteria-infected feeders, also killing goldfinches, evening grosbeaks, pine siskins, the year the humans were forced indoors. He watched as twigs and leaves, fur and threads disintegrated, blew away, until there was nothing left but the story of a love built and undone, offered months later in a cozy nest atop the eastern facing hill, something soft and tender for winter's longest night, as we encircled fluffed cushions, settled in, our bodies warming each other, silky silver hair, moonlight, flickering flames brushing my cheek in the otherwise black night, awakening my spirit with a primordial call to which there is only one response. Let us pass the dark night together, the wind through the pines hushing our ever humming fear.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
This is something I wrote for my Yugo House class last quarter, and it's about the neighborhood where I live, which is Winona and Aurora, which Winona is only about a block from 73rd. So I usually call it 73rd and Aurora, but it's actually Winona and Aurora. And it's about just what it's been like the last couple of years with COVID, and also always tearing down old houses and putting up condos like all Seattle's doing. So this is called Aurora North Autumnal. The leaves of the red gum trees wave their red flag messages of carbon monoxide stain of Aurora's death wage. Gas-powered blowers send throngs of October foliage towards smog-masked halcyon of the season's passage. Summer's nightingale melodies are long since diminished in pulsing electronic beats of the day's drunken finish. There's no more Michelob laughter on tap at Duck Island, which is now a mortuary for a carousing man. The windows are all boarded up as they are down the street at Best Cafe, where late night talk regaled indiscreet. The world famous 12-egg omelet no longer has takers, and unemployment has claimed their cooks and waiters. On a nearby street, men saw off the gray limbs of an oak, while November drizzle dispels chronic veils of leaf smoke. Some can hear the hospital screams as the steel teeth enter the wood and sense the harbinger of a cold winter. Thank you.
So we ended for us to know about.
Okay, when I was a kid in New Delhi, the zoo had an elephant that played on the harmonica.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding you. Okay.
Was it better than mine? It might be.
That's it.
I don't know. There's a poem there, you know?
Yeah.
There
I'm
are
not
some
gonna write it.
questions we are not supposed to ask. Am I better than an elephant?
Witness
Don't
this
ask it,
harmonica.
Alex.
This is not a song. Witness these spoken words. This is not a legal proceeding, despite the witnesses. Suffer me, please me, with your Snickers. With your Snickers.